Wadzi,
Hi.
thanks for joining us on the shop floor.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me, what makes a Chelsea 10?
Wait till you watch the video.
Of course we are.
Honestly, working in Chelsea, I'm just like, oh my gosh, everyone is like a clone. And I think that's like with a lot of
Yeah.
places, if you're in a place long enough, you kind of realize everybody is kind of like a clone. Everyone kind of shops at the local high street. They don't go and shop outwards.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of made me gather the idea.
So just for our listeners,
Yeah.
Wadzi is a bit of a TikTok sensation. So
Bit of a star.
Almost 7 million likes.
Oh my gosh, I thought you said followers. I was like,
Well over 100,000 followers now.
yes.
Yeah.
So you're
Icon. Literal icon.
Yeah, we really wanted to get you on the show. It was really weird actually because I had seen your videos prior to us having a discussion. And Jasmine was like, what about this girl, Wadzi, to come on the show? I was like, bizarrely, I was checking out her videos the other day and thought she would be perfect to
No
come on the show.
ways.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Because I was scrolling, obviously you'd messaged and I went through your Instagram. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. Like, I feel like you have loads of strings to your bow. And then Tim literally was like, oh my God, no, I know her.
I liked
From
the
the
video,
size.
but what was it? Your sales assistant is not your friend.
No, because I kind of realized like, yeah, they probably hate me now. After like actually working as a close-knit sales assistant, I'm thinking some of them you like, others you just like.
I think we'll come back to that though, but talk to us about a Chelsea 10.
Yeah.
Okay. So a Chelsea 10 is stereotypically what is seen as attractive in Chelsea. So when working in Chelsea, I noticed obviously the first thing was thinness. Like it was a crazy obsession.
Oh my gosh.
Some of the customers thought that I was big. Like I'm not even.
What?
Yes.
What? Are they insane?
Yes, not. They wouldn't necessarily say like I had one customer. She wasn't sure about an item, and I was like, "Oh yeah, no, like I've tried that one on." Like,
So this isn't a retail job?
Yeah, this isn't a
Yeah.
retail job. Yeah. Thanks for the context. It's in a retail job, and like we're selling like luxury high end items. All of them are like secondhand. I say secondhand because we only take things that are like new collection and worn within like the last year.
Yeah.
And everything's like a one off piece. But
Okay.
obviously we
So nearly new.
nearly
Almost
new.
Yeah.
Basically nearly new. Yeah. But obviously as like we get really good discounts in store, so I've tried on some stuff in the store. So like I had tried on a particular item and then a customer had walked in and she was like wasn't sure about it, couldn't be bothered to try it on. And I was like, "Oh yeah, no, I've tried that one on. Like it was fine for me, it worked for me." And she was like, "Really?"
Wow. The attitude
No, it's just like,
from,
"Really?" Like she was shocked.
oh, what?
Yeah. Honestly, they have
Did you
crazy
go, better
dysmorphia.
believe it, better believe
She was
it.
close to the door. I was like, yeah. I was just so confused. I was like, wait, someone like outwardly said that.
Yeah.
And she was like so close to the door because I think she realized like, oh,
She's like,
wait.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I
Wow.
stepped the line. So yeah, a lot of them have an obsession with healthy eating. So definitely like physique
Yeah.
is a main thing. Tallness is also another thing.
God, I wouldn't win then.
I wouldn't win.
Chelsea 0 if I went there.
No,
thank God
literally.
Thank God I live in East London.
Yeah, so that, and then obviously when it comes to fashion, like there's a lot of international people that live there, but it's mainly the brands that are sold on the high street, like especially for like the younger people. So like the Zadig, Voltaire brand.
Yeah. What's the one?
On
I've
Sloane
seen
Street,
it.
isn't it?
On King's Road.
Okay.
What's
Yeah.
the brand where it's like the bag and has the angel wings?
Isn't that it?
Oh, maybe that was it. You know what I mean? It's like a black bag and it's got like these thin little
Yes,
angel
that's it.
wings.
I think
Oh,
that's
yeah.
it. With the leather black bag.
And,
yeah.
and the star shoes.
Yeah, Golden Goose.
Oh, is that them?
Golden
I'm
Goose?
no-
Yeah, so Golden
I've
Goose
noticed
also.
this.
Yeah, so you've noticed. When did you notice that?
Because we work near there. We used to work near Sloane Street, didn't we? So that's when you see this. And you always pick up
Right?
on these nuances. Like I was seeing the same bags, the same kind of trainers. I was like, hang on a minute, if I missed the memo, if I like not...
I think what's so interesting about this, how old are you, Wadzi?
23.
So you have picked up on this kind of narrative of a Chelsea clone and what makes a Chelsea 10. But I think there's always historically been this sense that, you know, the kind of historical Sloaney, it was very
Slowly pony.
Yes, I heard a customer say that.
Sloaney, pony, cloney, because they were all wearing the same things. You know, it was pearls, twin sets, you know, the Barber
Yeah.
jacket, the hunter boots, the jodhpurs, but just running into the delicatessen, you know. Just very kind of stuffy, kind of public school, kind of that look of privilege, not necessarily any sense of style. And kind of the feeling that there was no sense, you didn't want to these people didn't want to
Yeah, no
differentiate
differentiate.
themselves in a kind of
From the normal person, they do. But like,
interesting.
yeah, from the normal person, they do. And if they like a common trend that the everyday person is, they'll try and get like maybe the exclusive drop, like Adidas Sambas.
Yeah.
A lot of them have the limited edition drops rather than the Adidas Sambas that are not like limited edition. That's kind of what I noticed. I think there's like some leopard print ones, which I think are kind of
Yeah,
limited
yeah.
edition. So
Yes.
something that's like very different. And if the everyday person's kind of catching on to like what they're wearing, they will make it
So
known
do you think
in their
that-
hub.
Do you think this is like an echo chamber situation? What is the Chelsea clone? Why do you think that proliferates?
I don't understand.
So you're saying that there's kind of like a certain look.
Yeah.
Why do you think they're all emulating one another?
I don't really know, to be honest. I don't really know. I guess it's like people want to feel a part of something.
Yeah.
Like that's where they live. It represents that they have money. It represents that they've got this, that, and the third. So if someone else sees you dressing like that, they're like, oh, you're a part of me. Like, oh, you probably ski or summer where I
Yeah.
summer. So it's like, I now know how to pick and select friends because it makes it easier because we're all like wearing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I don't need to like see, oh, does she relate to me? Am I going to be judged if I tell her that like I went on holiday like to 4 different countries this year?
Yeah.
But if you just see someone wearing what you're wearing, it's just
It's-
kind of like, oh, there's going to be no judgment here. I can come and openly speak about maybe my controversial opinions or takes on things.
Yeah. It's that herd mentality. And it's like using clothing as a signal to
Yeah.
other people about your position in
Yeah.
society.
Absolutely. That's
and
nothing
it's still
new.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And it's like still there. I think that's the important thing. And I think that's something that's really interesting is how have you picked this up, right? In terms of like, you've got quite good cultural
This has
observation.
grown
Yeah.
real traction
Yeah.
on TikTok. So it's obviously resonating
I've
with
had
a
people from
lot of
Chelsea
your
follow me.
listeners. Have you?
Quite right. Hoping to be the 10.
I had someone like who teaches tennis. I think people think I live in Chelsea. He was like, fancy getting any tennis lessons? Let me know. Hit me out. I was like,
Just so
"Sir,
you can rate."
I can't afford that.
Hoping you'll introduce them to a Chelsea 10.
Oh my gosh. No, he like is I think he was like an ex-tennis player and he owns a tennis club in Chelsea.
Oh my
Or
word.
like near Chelsea because I went on the Instagram and I noticed like one of our like VIP clients
Yeah.
does tennis there.
Oh,
So I was
wow.
like, this is obviously going to be way above my budget.
My price range, no.
Exactly. But I think it's because I made these videos that maybe he quickly was scrolling past and thought,
Yeah.
oh, maybe she could be like a potential customer.
Client.
But what was your question? Sorry.
Well, just like the cultural observation, I feel like you're really observant. And from what I've seen of your channel, it's picking up on trends, dissecting fashion styles, dissecting, like you're saying, this kind of stereotype. Where do you think this kind of comes from? Do you think it comes from having worked in retail and witnessing people, or does it just come from, I don't know, a personal interest? Or, you know, have you studied? Have you, you know,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Got any hobbies, or what's like led to this, I guess? Because
Yeah.
it's quite a niche.
Yeah, I agree. I think first of all, obviously, we have to be interested in fashion, and then second of all, like I'm interested in like people as well,
Yeah.
like all different types of people. I'm not someone that's like closed off into understanding someone. Obviously, once someone says something problematic, crosses the line, I'm like, okay. But I'm always curious about everyone, or like,
Yeah.
why are they like that, or why do they do that? Whereas a lot of people are just kind of would just end it there, and also. I kind of always rethink what people are saying. So like, for example, when I was working in Chelsea, I had loads of clients, especially older ones, be like, oh, this is what I'm like. We had customers that could make wish lists and they could tell you what exactly they were looking for. And maybe we would source pieces, or if anything came in that they were looking for, we'd contact them. And I had a lot of customers be like, I only want like the super luxe brands. Like, don't show. They'd be like, oh, I want a tweed jacket. It's cropped. It's this, and I'll have the perfect tweed jacket. Yeah, and I'll be like, oh, we have one, and it's Marge. They'd be like, I don't want contemporary brands. Like, I don't want to shop there. Like, I only want to shop at the top, like the Chanel's, the Dior's. Like, only interested in seeing that when I'm in store.
And this is what creates the homogenization. They're all,
Yeah.
many people, affluent people living in Chelsea are looking for those same brands, that same look. But what's odd is that it is so homogenized, because obviously a lot of people living in Chelsea and shopping in these stores and coming into the store that you worked in, I'm assuming, were very affluent
Yeah.
and well-traveled. So you would think that kind of being well-traveled would bring in, you know, a more kind of diverse sense of style. But really, it's very homogenized.
I think even where they travel is very selective.
Yes.
They want to summer at the same places. They're comparing where they're summering, and it's places where it's like exclusive. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can go to Ibiza, but you can stay in a certain place where the average person that lives in Ibiza is not having that same experience. That's just an example.
Not in Ayia Napa anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So they'll be very selective of where they travel. They're like, oh, investment bankers in America also going to like a holiday in Hamptons. We need to go holiday in Hamptons.
Wouldn't you just want to get away from the people you're with working all the time?
They're just following each other, and it's the same sort of thing.
Imagine having all that money and being able to exercise so much choice and then just choosing what everybody else does.
Yeah.
Kind of depressing.
I know. And he was like, oh, it's actually becoming like a real thing. So you're all in London, you're all deciding to go follow the investment bankers that are going on holiday to the Hamptons. So I was just like, oh my gosh, that's insane.
My God.
I think also kind of your video that I really enjoyed was it's not necessarily critique. Your videos aren't critiques. They're very observational. Was a talk about the Cartier bangle. What's it called?
Love bracelet.
Which again, that is de rigueur. It's uniform, isn't it? In Chelsea, in Mayfair. It's seen as this aspirational must-have item, not just with people that kind of have already attained wealth, but young, aspirational people. It's one of those key pieces that people want to be seen wearing.
Yeah.
And what's your kind of take on that?
Well, I had an encounter with someone who I interned with at Debenham. She was actually very wealthy, like one of the few people I've interned with who's very wealthy. She had the love bracelet, but she had the other version of it. So not the ones with like the circles around it, the ones with like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like kind of open. And she kind of was like, yeah, everyone's got the original one before. I feel like it's too trendy now and I don't want to wear it. But personally, my take is the average person, I don't actually genuinely see that bracelet day to day.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like the fact that it's on social media and we see it a lot because it's something that people don't have in real life. So when people see it on social media, they're like, oh my gosh. So I don't think it's actually as overexposed. I know that's what I mentioned within the video, but it's maybe... I was mainly talking about amongst rich people, like the classic love bracelet. They feel like everybody's caught onto it. And I think that's just because there's loads of like dupes and alternatives.
Yeah, it's not like the majority of people are walking around with it. But I think that's the interesting point, isn't it? We talk about this kind of echo chamber of wealthy people in Chelsea. But I think there's also a sense of that if you work in retail, all of a sudden it becomes quite normal to think, oh, I would quite like one of those Cartier bracelets.
Yeah, when you're working there. Oh, yeah, I'll just try that on.
You know, you're around luxury. And I think oftentimes, you know, that's the kind of gateway into wanting these quite expensive products.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to find out about where you grew up and things like that in terms of, because we've worked in luxury and, you know, it's when you work in retail, we've said this before, the contrast of you go home to your flat miles away in the other side of London, but you're entering this kind of world, this sometimes feels really magical world of, like, it's not reality, is it? And you're seeing people spend money that, you know, you can't even imagine sometimes. And it starts to feel normal. even though it's not. And that's the scary thing, is you think, oh yeah, trying on the products that you, as if you're shopping sometimes. We've definitely had that, haven't we? Where we've gone, oh, we love this. This is gorgeous.
Yeah. So I grew up north.
Yeah.
So in Sheffield. And yeah, definitely the amount of wealth that I've seen in London is just completely not the same. I think what wealth looks like there is very different. I guess it's like a big house and it's probably going to cost less than $1 million. Well, maybe not now, but then it was.
Yeah.
It's more of like going to private school, doing extracurriculum activities.
It's a bit more quiet. Well,
It's a bit more quiet. Like, throughout the weekend, you go to the Peak District and maybe like you camp there, maybe you book like a hotel there. Still going on like leisurely holidays, but I don't think I didn't really hear people be like, oh, where are we going to ski, or where are we going?
Where did you go to school? That's the classic. Where did
Yeah.
you go to school? As if people will know the school.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
up north, like at least in the city I was living in, there was like one private boys' school and one private girls' school. So like where do you go to school wasn't really as big of a thing as here.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't as, I guess you could say, like snobby. I feel like if some rich people that I knew came to London and tried to connect with the rich people here, they probably wouldn't even connect.
No, yeah.
Even if they like are financially the same, just because of like the way it is. But I did a lot of extracurriculum activities, and I kind of noticed like the majority of people that did do extracurriculum activities did come from like a lot more money, and they would go to private school, which I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But I guess my parents just didn't want me to like be brain rotted on the weekends and
Quite
stuff.
right.
so when did you move to London?
I moved to London. Well, first I moved to Surrey for uni when I was 18.
Okay.
And then
And what did you study?
I studied fashion promotion and imaging.
Of course.
Yes.
Makes perfect sense.
And it like coincided with lockdown in like within like the last year.
Yeah.
So I did the last year from home, and then afterwards, I think after like I stayed in Sheffield for like a year because I managed to get like a marketing job. The first job, it was through like the Kickstart scheme. The government had made a scheme for like young people to get into full-time employment because a lot of grads were affected by COVID. So you like kind of had to sign up with the scheme. Obviously, the catch was it was easier to get a job, but it was minimum wage pay. So it was literally £1,000 a month salary.
In London?
No.
No, to be honest, anywhere.
That's a criminal.
So the job that I actually had, the company I was actually working for in Chelsea, originally I got offered a job by them, a marketing job by them throughout
wow.
COVID for the Kickstart scheme,
Right.
which is minimum wage. But like obviously it just wasn't adding up because first of all you're doing lockdowns, and then second of all like the pay is like £1,000 a month. So I found another one that was in Sheffield, which I did.
Yeah.
Obviously, literally awful.
Made more financial sense as
But
well.
it made more financial sense because I could stay
Yeah,
at home. And then a year
absolutely.
after, I managed to get like a job that actually paid like a normal salary, London salary, in London.
Yeah.
So that's when I moved. But I quit that job. Like the first job I had, I literally quit it after 8 months because it was just so horrible. And I just did like freelancing until I could find freelancing and working in retail, because freelancing
The
hours don't
agency
always
kind of.
like
Through an agency.
for like a fashion agency. And I also did a retail job just because like the freelance job, she was also based up north, and it wasn't always consistent hours monthly.
Yeah.
The pay per hour was the same. It was £12 an hour, so it was actually quite good for where it was. But I wasn't sure about the stability of that, so I did do a retail job like at Flannels.
Yeah.
And then that's
the Flannels
The
on
Flannels.
Oxford Street.
yeah, like the Flannels. We have a flagship in Sheffield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you worked here in London in the Flannels.
No. Sorry,
Oh.
no. No, I worked in the Flannels in Sheffield in
Yeah.
the flagship store.
Where's that, in Meadowhall?
Yeah, it's in
Okay.
the Meadowhall Centre. I think it was still fairly new. To be
And what kind
honest.
of brands were they stocking?
Oh, everything like I worked in the menswear, so like Moncler, Canada Goose. Yeah, like
So
Burberry.
quite commercial luxury brands.
Yeah, not
that had
Chanel.
broad appeal.
Yeah, exactly. But oh my gosh, maybe I shouldn't say this, but it was such a laid
Say
back
it,
job.
please.
It was laid back. People were stealing.
Staff,
Pardon?
staff, customers,
No,
the lot.
customers. It wasn't like the
Yeah.
security. It wasn't doing what it needed to do. It wasn't on top of what it needs to be.
But
on
even
top
when
of.
the security is doing what they need to do, sometimes there's very little you can do when people are stealing.
That's true.
Like, you know, there have been so many in-store policies where it's like you can't actually do anything unless they attack you. And it's like, you don't want them to get to the point
And I
to
think with
attack
brands
you.
like that, obviously, if someone's they're probably stealing to order. You know, these things have a high resale value.
Yeah.
We had crazy. Like we also had like Christian Dior beauty products for men, and I think when Christian Dior changed their label or logo or something, we had to, basically we threw out a bunch of like newly boxed Christian Dior. And apparently the security guard was patrolling the bins so people don't go in and like take it because it's practically brand new
Dumpster
stuff.
diving, yeah.
Yeah. Practically brand new stuff that hasn't like been touched, but it's just because the logo has been changed. We couldn't
So,
sell
and
it
the
anymore.
brand had asked you to withdraw it from sale because of the logo change.
Yeah, and we were putting in like the new version, and like I don't know if it was a flannels thing where they decided like let's make sure they're looking around the bins so no one
Because
takes
the dumpster
stuff.
divers, I was saying this to someone, we were saying about the dumpster diving in America where they go into the Sephora bins and they'll find like the most insane makeup, you know, hair products, hair dryers, They probably are quite on it now with trying to police that.
I mean, Flannels was a northern brand, wasn't it? Before it was bought by Mike Ashley. It started in the north. I want to say Flannels was northeast.
I really don't
But
know
I
when.
might, for years and years, they had a store in Leeds. But from the moment I moved there, so it's a really old,
When
at
someone
least
used to
20 years old.
When someone used to say flannels to me, I used to think like wet flannels.
They had
when
like a
you're unwell.
store in Newcastle. I think even in Middlesbrough they had a Flannels at one
Really?
point. Yeah. And then Mike Ashley bought it as he has a history of kind of buying
And
up
who's-
struggling retailers.
Is this the JD? No, is this the Sports Direct?
Sports Direct.
Yes, it's
Prime.
House of Fraser.
House
Yeah,
of Fraser.
that's right.
Bought
So the
Jack
dying
Wills.
ones.
Didn't he buy Jack Wills?
I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I think he did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So all these
Okay.
distressed retailers, he would swoop in.
Yeah.
Evans Cycles, I think, was
like
another.
an angel.
Yeah.
I read that he wanted to make Flannels the Harrods of the high street.
Oh yeah, we heard all that in meetings.
Oh,
like
Lord.
Really?
Yeah, I mean we heard that because we had a flagship in Sheffield, and it's like we don't really have any other flagships, I think. So we wanted to get other retailers as well, other retailers to stock us, but we needed to show the numbers to make sure we're selling. And yeah, we had those talks, but it wasn't really taken us that seriously, to be honest. Yeah.
And do you think it was offering, saying it wants to be the Harrods of the North? I'm assuming by saying that, Harrods of the High Street, sorry, that what was that? What were they trying to emulate? The brands, the service, the kind of...
I think they wanted the brands.
Yeah.
Yes. And then also they were so big on, what do you call it? When visual merchandising, like our visual merchandising was actually really, really good.
Yeah.
But one thing I think they were struggling on is the service because it just has to be like on top, like no other.
If you want to be like selling those luxury brands,
Yeah.
and for brands to want to be in the store, they want to see that, you're hot salespeople and you're on it and,
Yeah.
not hot in the way you look, but like hot on knowledge of product and interest in fashion, and don't they? And, they want you to seem really interested. I think that's what.
So you were working at the one in Sheffield, and
Yeah.
then when you moved to London, did you work for Flannels in London too?
No, I had gotten offered like a marketing job, and the company seemed really sketchy, but I was just like, if this is an opportunity to move to London, so be it. Like,
Yeah.
So literally, so be it. Because I'm just like the pay in Flannels, and then also like basically I started working in Flannels just before Christmas time. So I managed to obviously get hours, but in January, luckily my manager kept me on. But the hours were cut. Like you really weren't making any money. It was really hard to get. You'd apply for overtime. It just wasn't coming through. So you end up with like £400 a month after. Like it was dry. There was
So you're
really
on a
nothing I could do.
0-hour contract then, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it was a 0-hour contract, yeah. And there was just like no money it just wasn't making any sense. It was just like no money to be made, no
Yeah.
salary to be made. It was really, really quite bleak. So I was just like...
You were like, I'll take the dodgy job in London, the dodgy marketing.
No, literally, I was like, I'm not bothered, like as long as... because it paid like a regular salary. I would not take anything that probably was like pay minimum wage, just because when you move, it's very expensive.
Yes, deposits. You've got deposits to put down.
Yeah.
You know, you're buying new furniture if it's unfurnished, or,
Yeah.
or at least definitely having to get supplies, even if it's for the kitchen, which is so expensive.
Luckily, I use my uni supplies.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
They lasted the test of time. So I know so many people that just were wrecked.
Yeah, no, I think deposit was kind of like a steep one. And to be honest, there was other properties that I'd considered also like renting out with flatmates. But I just think like I've got a few flatmates and I'm thinking, gosh, if I had like only one flatmate, would my deposit, because my deposit was included like 2.2K. And my rent is below £1,000. So it's not adding up.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because they get you to compete now in the housing market and like what you can offer to try and get these places. I mean, I don't know how difficult you found it, but I certainly have had times where it's been so difficult to move flats because you're up against people, you know, offering way more above the asking price or paying months in advance and things like that. And it's like, how on earth can you compete?
No, exactly. My friend told me like her friend signed a 3-year lease.
Yeah, see, this one's
Sort of
saying.
lease,
I was
isn't
lucky
it?
because the apartment that I had, it's in like a really nice area, but the landlord wanted to make that specific apartment for like young people to kind of, it's not a uni accommodation, but he wanted it to be kind of like only people that have just like started their grad jobs. So that's why the rent is like a lot
Yeah.
better than probably the average like apartment block.
great.
Yeah, but because of that, he obviously went and like made it was a 3-bedroom flat, and he obviously went in and built 2 more
Yeah,
bedrooms.
turning these places into multi-bedrooms when they're not really designed to be that way.
Yeah. So like someone's literally sleeping in the kitchen.
Yeah, fully. And so after you got this job and you were there 8 months, was it fashion marketing or was it?
It was hospitality. So
Okay.
I don't think a fashion job entry level, like grad level, would have like paid
Oh, no,
a salary
yeah.
that was stable. I feel like I would have had to be higher up in fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so because I had started like a food page and I'd worked with brands while I was in Sheffield, since like I was doing a lot, I literally was. But yeah, because I had a food
Yeah.
blog, it meant that like when I was applying for roles, I could apply for like fashion roles and hospitality roles.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so I
That's
managed to
great.
get it through that because I was able to like show my portfolio and be like, look, I've also worked with a few brands.
And you did this by yourself, right? You started this food page.
yeah,
Now, just for the listener here,
yeah.
it's so impressive that you've got a degree, you came out, you're looking for a job, you've had to go beyond your degree and do other things like I have and like lots of people have to do is, you know, find these other avenues because, you know, we're not even able to just present those skills from our degree. We got to go out and
Yeah, the degree is no
Yeah.
longer enough.
No.
It's no longer enough.
you gotta, you know, and there's also those jokes of like, I'm also a blogger and a podcaster. I mean, we fall into that bracket as well, but it truly is, isn't it? You've kind of got to. And like, it shows that you were able to get a job from that alone.
Yeah.
From literally being able to show them. And I've seen it's really successful. It's about a vegan page,
Yeah.
isn't it? Which
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think is
yeah.
amazing. And like, I had no idea about how many great places there are to eat, even just in a city. And like, really luxe food too. It's not just what you usually see on vegan pages where they just go to like little trucks and specialized vegan. It's showing
Yeah.
the plethora of restaurant options. But the fact that you were able to get a job, like that, this blows my mind. From something you just started and had the drive to do yourself, all those extracurricular activities your parents made you do. Look, it's paying
Yeah, no,
off.
that's so
Yeah.
true. It makes you like want to always do extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. You do also think about like, gosh, have I really put my degree into work? I think I've only put it into work in terms of like people that I met. Some of them work for like PR agencies and stuff.
Yeah.
And they've like seen my account and invited me to things and stuff like that. So people, but then I'm just like, oh, it's quite a lot to like 5 connections. The degree costs quite a lot. I know you don't like instantly pay it up, but like, you know, the student finance and everything is never enough. Like you always had to put a lot more money, a
I
lot
think
more
from
money.
week to week, as we have new guests on, there's a kind of common thread emerging now, a kind of around our guests navigating social media as a way to create an income, and not only an income, but actually to create a career for themselves. Where do you kind of see social media working for you in that respect? Do you see that, you know, having graduated, you know, gone down the traditional educational route, and now to be navigating social media and, like you said, not necessarily using huge amounts of the kind of degree. Do you see the kind of social media work that you're doing as a career?
Yes, but I also feel like it's kind of never guaranteed. It kind of goes up and down. And because I pay bills and stuff, I feel like I'll kind of always have a career until social media is kind of making double, until it's like blatantly obvious that, oh, I can't upkeep like the both of them.
What was the catalyst for you to be like, okay, I'll do this? And then to put your first videos out on TikTok and to start making content, because, you know, we've had this conversation with other people as well. It's like, you kind of have to sacrifice yourself a little bit and lose that perfectionism in yourself to do it.
Yeah.
You have to just become comfortable and have the confidence, you know, because really when you see influencers and people with any talent that you see on the screen, whether it be an actor or a TV star, you know, at some stage they had to start and they had to just go for it. And there's nothing really that different between any of us. But what was the thing for you to go, I can do that and I want to do that and I can do really well at it, as you have done, you know? Like, how did you get to that point to just go, I'm just going to put a video of me out online? Because,
see what happens.
you know, you talk to camera as well. There's no hiding there. That's direct. Like, you know.
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. Like, first thing, we actually had someone come in at uni and say, like, you guys, if you want to get a job, you need to jump on social media and build your portfolio that way, which I found... Well, now I'm thinking about it, it's like, that's so funny. I'm at uni and someone's telling me I need to like
not go to uni and
jump on social media. That's how you're going to get a job. It's like, isn't this the reason I'm supposed to get a job and internships? So like that like stuck in my head, and I didn't see many people using like TikTok as a platform to, at that time anyways, to like give think pieces about fashion. So also it was like, because it was like lockdown, my uni was a lot easier on us with work and stuff, and I was kind of like living alone, not on purpose because my housemate moved out. So I just thought, I have the time. Let me just start posting videos every single day.
And this was on TikTok.
This is on TikTok, yeah. Let me just start posting videos every single day.
And I think you probably caught it, you know, during lockdown.
People are sad.
Everybody was on social media.
Yeah.
And people were able to grow a presence on TikTok more readily than they are now.
Yeah, exactly.
So you were able to kind of weaponize that moment.
I wish I did it. I did it in like 2021. I wish I did it in 2020. But I think I just still wasn't sure like how I would translate the content into a video. And because honestly, TikTok, there was just a lot of dancing videos and stuff. It was just hard to think of like, how do I sit there and talk about fashion and my opinions? Really, there wasn't a lot of people doing anything like that. It was very much like one niche we were mainly seeing.
And do you remember the video that created your first viral moment?
Yeah, I actually do, because it was a stitch to this guy. I think I did videos of like what your style says about you. And it was like different aesthetics at the time. Because obviously in lockdown we had like 10 billion aesthetics. We had cottagecore, we had all of that.
People were reinventing themselves every 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like creating videos of like what your style will say about you. And that did really well, because I was stitching a creator that was bigger as well, because he was... I think his video was mainly about doing like style roasts, and then I thought, oh, let me stitch, because I heard like stitching is really great to get your videos out there, because my videos are not going to land on anyone's For You page. I've literally got 10 followers. Yeah. And then the second thing that kind of gave me the push to post on social media was like when I was 14, when I first got Instagram, so that was 2014, I just kind of was like, it was like Instagram was all about perfectionism, aesthetics, and a 14-year-old girl, I was just following trends, and my room was super pastel pink, decorated to the nines. Like every single penny I got, like it was just about my room. So like I created a lot of content, and like within 6 months I got like 10,000 followers. So
amazing.
Yeah, I was obsessed with Instagram.
I think what I love about what you do, and it's quite unusual, is that I've said earlier, is that it's observational. You're not trying to skewer people. You're not skewering the way they dress. You're not skewering celebrities. It's not like Fashion Police with Joan Rivers, where they're really going for people.
I don't think it is.
They're going for the jugular. But it's like you create this conversation around fashion, around, you know, people that live in Chelsea or people that buy into luxury brands. you invite a conversation. And I think that's why your videos, well, from my perspective as an observer, is why they resonate with people. Is that been an intentional way of presenting what you do, or has that just kind of happened organically?
I think it's kind of happened organically because I don't see people making videos like that. So I'm just like, am I just a weirdo that's just like thinking all this stuff and nobody's talking about it? Because people are making videos on, like you said, roasting and judging people's outfits. But I'm just like, is anyone really like just observing? I really wasn't seeing people talk about it, especially in London. I mean, I saw obviously like a New York 10, which mainly focused on physical attributes rather than also like style and stuff like that. But I didn't see many people have a discourse on it as much. So it was just something that was like natural to me. I was like, I'm just going to talk about it. Like maybe people might be like, what? And like not notice that there's a pattern. But you said you've noticed that there was a pattern as well in Chelsea.
Yeah.
So I was just like, well, maybe people just don't think it's like a huge thing to speak about. But then once someone actually talks about it, they're like, actually, I've got more to say on that. Or actually, could you do this place? Or could you do that place?
I think as well, you've touched upon something is the inner self-doubt that you'll have when you're making content is thinking, oh, what if no one relates to this? And what if no one's interested? And is it just me? And like you said, is it just me seeing this? And am I? But actually, as we found, when you put these things out, you have to kind of just like almost trust in that there will be people. And I think that's what your content has shown. Like your observations are universal to most people and they're commenting on it with you. And even some of your videos I've seen that are quite educational, like, God, I was learning a lot about style through some of them. I was like, this is really useful about sort of quality of items and like these things you've probably picked up through your work that not everyone knows that you were sharing. And I guess, where do you see this for your like trajectory? Like, do you see this as like, what are you doing now, for example?
Yeah. I'm just currently looking for new roles now, but because it was like Veganuary in January, I was doing a lot of like collabs with vegan restaurants and stuff. But in terms of like fashion, obviously it was Fashion Week recently, so I went there. But I don't really know. I'm quite like open. Definitely, I think something that would suit me is speaking about observational fashion or whatever. Rather than just, because when I went to Fashion Week, it kind of made me realize I thought, oh, maybe I will enjoy just standing there and getting my picture taken, and like there's other influencers, no offense, but like crying at the fact that they're not being picked to be interviewed or take a picture, and I'm just like,
no, girls.
No. It's like that's actually not what I care about. Like as an influencer, people stereotypically think that's what you care about. I was like, actually, that's not what I care about. I care more about someone asking me like, what do you think? That's what makes me feel like, oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you asked. Rather than like, do you want me to take pictures, like loads of pictures of you to post on our website? I mean, that's fun.
Yeah, I think that really is very clear. You're harnessing social media, but you're kind of creating a dialogue. It's not necessarily about you you're not trying to promote yourself. I think so often on social media with influencers, that is exactly what they're trying to do. There is nothing beyond that, you know? So I think that's really very much where your content kind of stands out in a really positive way.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I hope, to find a way to do something like that in the future.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have to see what's there. I know people do like panel talks and stuff, but I don't really know if there's much panel talks around like fashion. I guess there is. Yeah, I see a lot of career panel talks. Yeah. But do people get paid? I don't know.
Yeah, that's another question.
Yeah. Right. And you say that you're applying for jobs, so kind of what areas and when
how
you're
are you finding it? Yeah.
When you're applying for roles, do you talk very openly about your social media presence? Do you see that as a great kind of, what's the word that I'm looking for, a benefit, or do you see it sometimes as hindering the possibility of gaining employment?
Well, the jobs I apply for, like social media and marketing, so they obviously love the fact that I speak about my social media and I attach like examples of work that I've done for different brands. The industries that I'm mainly applying for is like hospitality, like restaurants or cafes to run their social pages, because that's what I was doing before. And like I enjoyed how like reactive that was, and obviously like I'm a massive foodie. I don't mind applying for some fashion roles, but just like I find sometimes it's very difficult to get in, and once you get in, things kind of sometimes feel repetitive, or like you don't feel like you're paid as much. I don't know how practical that is in terms of like the pay. Also, because I use my TikTok as like a fashion outlet, and I get opportunities through that. I kind of outweigh the pros and cons, and I'm like, I feel like I gain more from doing fashion as an influencer. You just kind of get given things to you. I'm just like, oh, this is great.
Oh my God. Teach us. We need to know
We're
this.
still waiting for that.
We're still waiting for a gift.
Yeah, honestly, just keep doing things. It does happen. Rather than
I think brands are scared of us.
yeah.
no, I thought that as well. I'm just like, this video, that's it. Like, brands are not going to reach out to me after I've just spoken about that. But like, controversy keeps the brands in the DMs. And,
Does it?
Oh my gosh, yes.
I'm loving this.
Really?
I feel like you're a
Yes.
consultant now. Having to consult
No,
us.
literally, any video that people might have taken in the wrong way, like, I've never received as much brand email me. Of course, there's going to be like some shady brands always.
Yeah.
But like, it puts me on the stage, and the brands are like, you. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, you've just seen that video? They don't
The
care.
radar. They
Yeah.
want you. They
Yeah.
want the
Quite
stage.
smart, really, of the brands.
Yeah,
though.
that's really clever.
Yeah, as soon as like my
Keep your
videos are
friends
blowing
close
up.
and your enemies
Enemies
closer.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, for me, I noticed like the rewards I get from being a like fashion influencer, more beneficial to me rather than like working within fashion. I think maybe if my parents like lived in London or whatever, then I would probably apply actively for more like fashion roles.
And why
like
is
fashion
that?
marketing roles.
Because of you would have somewhere to live, you hadn't have to pay rent or
Yeah.
for the privilege that it is to
think
have
about it.
parents.
Like if you work in fashion, like obviously, like you said, you are around luxury items. Being realistic, you're going to want to buy one thing. It's not just about that, but it goes like beyond that. Like it's not fun, like being in an environment around luxury stuff, even if I'm doing the marketing and talking about, oh, these are the new it bags. And it's like, I can't even afford a bag that's half the price of that. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's not as enjoyable.
Do your parents see your kind of burgeoning social media career as a credible route to having a career?
Yeah.
Or do
yeah,
they?
how is that?
Honestly, they love it. My dad reposted it when I did like a feature with Vogue, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Aw.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that's really. Thing is, my mom had like a fashion background. She was like a fashion buyer and stuff
Yeah.
before she got married. So she's like extremely creative. So she's like super interested in all of that. And they just like, we would just rather you do what you like and what you're interested in, because that's what like you kind of
Yeah.
would do best in. But yeah, obviously like practicality sometimes you might have to like look for another role. Like I said, when I was freelancing, like I was like, okay, I'm going to look for another retail role, even though I was living at home, just because I wasn't sure whether I was going to get the hours that I needed.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
you offered exactly the same advice as a guest from a couple of weeks ago. It's like, don't leave the day job until
Yeah.
you're absolutely certain that the
That you can
social
afford
media.
to.
That's what my dad tells me. That's what he would
Yeah.
tell me. The only thing would be like, just continue doing this stuff on the side. Like it'll be really great for your portfolio. Sometimes you get offers where you're just thinking, this is not what I want to do. Like you get TV producers email you being like, hey, we've got this dating show. Do you want to go on it or whatever? Yeah, like
Yeah.
really random. But he's just like, just add as much as you can onto your portfolio. So if you want to take it,
The
take
more the
it or
merrier.
not. Yeah, exactly.
How do you balance that then? Because obviously, I know you've just left your job.
Yeah.
But like when you were working full time and being this content creator who, I mean, we can only dream of the amount of like, you know, interaction you've had. How do you balance that day to day? You know, you're working 9 to 5, 9 to 6 probably.
Yeah.
Going home and you've got to go to a restaurant and review them. You can't just go and like eat quietly. You know, it's 2 full-time jobs.
It is.
How have you balanced that? And have you struggled? Have you loved it? You know, that.
Yeah, and do you have to step away from social media once in a while just to
Yeah.
recharge?
Yeah. So with balancing, I think when I really was going at it intensely, obviously I was at home with everything because of lockdown. Even when lockdown was over, when we would sometimes have like, we're going to have a lockdown, we're not going to have a lockdown. It's no social life.
Yeah. And that's
Basically,
honest.
you have no social life. But I'm an ambivert. So like,
What's that?
it's an it's in like the most introverted extrovert. So I am extroverted,
Wow.
but like I'm more introverted than the average extrovert, basically.
You thrive doing things by yourself.
What are you?
Or
I get
total extrovert.
I get
you?
energy
Yeah.
from being with people, but like if it
I
was
know,
like
I'm the opposite.
Oh,
I
really?
see. I get a lot of energy from being with people.
Yeah.
When I tell people I'm an introvert, they're like, "No way. There's just no way, Tim." But
wow.
actually, I need time alone. I love to be on my own. I'm
Yeah.
happy to be sociable, but I don't necessarily gain any kind of. I don't vibe
No,
with
I'm
it.
the
Yeah.
same as you. I love it. But that's what I mean is like, then you've cut out that social life because you're working on these things you're passionate about. That can be really hard, especially at our age. I mean, I'm 24, you're 23. Like, sometimes social life is the only thing people are showing art. You know what I mean? That's what they
Yeah.
live for. We live for the weekend. But if your weekend, similarly to me, is like working on a passion project, it's not always the same.
Yeah. I think, so basically ambivert, I like socializing, but probably not as much as you. Also, if you're an ambivert, like you are very selective with the people you socialize with. Like it's quicker for me to get my energy drained. Like if I didn't feel like this was as of an interesting conversation, even though I'm an extrovert, I would
Yeah.
rather be alone. Whereas some extroverts have the tendency to be like, oh, I'm fine, even though I only have like 2 common interests with this person. Like I want to see someone, I want to be social. I don't mind having like a small talk or chit chat.
Yeah.
I don't. Like I really have to feel like we're completely blonding. Otherwise I'd rather be alone.
Maybe I am this
Yeah.
then. I take it back.
You might be. Yeah, because a lot of extroverts don't mind like being amongst each other and just like being on their phone.
So what are you
or,
saying?
like-
So this is being an ambivert. Is that
Yeah.
correct? Has given you more time to kind of work on your own projects.
Yeah, and select who you want to go, like hang out with, and not just say yes to everything, but say yes to intentional.
Yeah,
people.
because normally I would only say yes to intentional and I don't really have FOMO. So like that kind of helps me to be like, okay, I'm going to focus on this. Also a huge thing was like, I wanted to leave the city I was in. I think we should just like leave it as that. I wanted to leave the city I was in. Like there was no growth, and also like a lot of brands, they might invite me for a dinner, but a lot of them will be in London. Like a lot of the
I'm
restaurants will be
sure.
in London and they're not paying you. So eventually I have to come up with a game plan to move to London, or I'm paying like £60 to get on the train every day. Oh,
Yeah,
not
and
every
they're not
day.
paying you. You're going for the
Yeah, on the weekend on a Saturday, and you get so drained and exhausted, and you're thinking, well, if I'm going to London, maybe I should like also meet up with a friend while I'm there and try out dinner, and then you just get burnt out.
Yeah.
So a huge thing was like I needed to move, and I just felt like if I need to move, I have to be like as consistent as possible and just focus on like the end result. And I think that
Yeah.
really, really helps you like not to get down, because it is really difficult. Like I remember I was doing like virtual styling on once my TikTok started to grow, a lot of people said, oh, could you do styling? So I started to do virtual styling as an added extra income.
Wait, what? So you just like FaceTime people and tell them what to wear?
No, like via DMs. Like I'd get them to do like a quiz and stuff, and then
gosh.
they pick a package and stuff like that. Like, because obviously I was working
So
9 to 5.
smart.
This is genius. This is genius.
So I
Go on.
had that, and like people actually would pay me, but I was working full time. So like I would be on the bus, like literally messaging a client and like looking through. Basically, a lot of people wanted new places to shop that weren't Zara, and
Yeah.
obviously as someone that's really interested in fashion and slightly sustainability, I was always on the lookout for like new small brands.
Yeah.
So I literally would be on the bus like looking for stores and looking for outfits to put together for clients, and then like when I didn't have that much to do at work at my first job, because he basically just made me do like his admin work, I literally was like on my phone.
Side hustling.
Side
Side hustling, making money left, right, and centre. You're like a money machine.
Exactly, literally. And then after I finished work, because I was again on the bus, I got my 3G. It's not like the tube where there's no network. Literally on it again.
And you think people wanted that because they don't want to have to think for themselves, or they just don't have the tools to know where to even look for fashion that they might be interested in, or styles or brands that agree with them, or
Yeah, I think they liked what I was posting on TikTok, because I posted a lot of style inspiration and I targeted it as like elegant and feminine, and then people also couldn't be bothered to look for like new brands that were interesting and exciting. And I think they probably just liked the idea of like, oh, this content creator I follow is like going to style me, and like, I don't know, I'm kind of shocked though, because like, I mean, I know I did a fashion degree, but this is real money people are paying. I'm not saying like the big money,
Yeah,
but I'm just
yeah,
saying
but
like, it was more than £20 people paying.
yeah, of course.
And like people are precious to their pockets, and it's young people. I mean, I took it completely seriously, but like people really did trust me. And when I started my full-time job, I was like, well, I have to do it on the bus because
Yeah, where else are you going to do it?
yeah, exactly. And my dad was like, you need to be careful because you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. You end up burning out. So
You do, and what kind of precautions do you now put in place to make sure that that doesn't happen? I think for anyone else that's listening that kind of has this or would like to have this
Yeah.
social media career, navigating that,
Or even
as
just
a-
any multiple
any
career.
career.
Yeah, in London
way
especially.
of kind of navigating secondary incomes or tertiary incomes. What
Yeah.
kind of things do you do?
I think going back home or like going back to somewhere maybe where family and friends haven't seen you in a while, they'll be able to tell if there's a change or something's not right. They'll be
Yeah.
like, okay, you're working too much, or like, oh, you seem burnt out, where you literally, there's nothing to do. That's when you kind of realize, because I noticed it when I went back for Christmas in December.
Yeah.
That's kind of reasons why I quit my last job, because it like I was extremely burnt out, but I really only noticed it when I went home.
To remove yourself from the environment.
Yeah, remove yourself from the environment.
Classic living in London, isn't it? The
Yeah.
moment you get on the train, you're like, oh,
I get ill every time I go home. Just my body's just exhausted, and it's
Yes.
like it can finally rest when I leave.
Yeah, and you just don't feel like doing anything like at all. But yeah, I think removing yourself from the environment is so important, because sometimes when you're in that environment in London as well, everyone else is also hustling. I know people that are doing a full-time job and also studying to do a master's. Like, so common. Like, you go hang out
Yeah.
with someone and they're literally on their laptop at 10 p.m. at night, like literally studying at
Yeah,
uni
yeah. It
while
becomes
also
the new
working.
normal.
Yeah, exactly. So staying in this environment doesn't help, because it just makes me think that, oh, well,
it's kind of normalized. Yeah.
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 yeah, you've got to get out of it. And I know like it's not cheap or sometimes like accessible, because some people's family like live in Ireland or like live abroad and overseas. And I feel like that's probably really, really difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'm
even
not sure
just
how to
getting
do
the
that.
train somewhere and decompressing, and also reflecting on your accomplishments, you know, like seeing,
Yeah,
because I
taking
think,
stock.
yeah, when you go somewhere else, you realize how much you are doing, and you feel really sort of proud of yourself, and to really reflect on it, as I'm sure you did when you were at home, and think, wow, look at everything I've done.
Yeah,
You've
that's
got
true.
yourself to London. You've had like multiple jobs here, you know, you're killing it with the social media, just to really go home and be like, I am doing enough. I am enough, like doing it, rather than the constant, I could be doing more. Someone else will be doing it if I don't do it. You know, that
Yeah.
fear of like, if I don't get in there quickly, someone else will, the rush.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. No, literally, I literally would tell my friend like, oh my gosh, I could have done so much more. Like, it's nearly been a year now since I've lived in London. And like, I looked back at the list I made of things I wanted to do, and I was telling my friend like what I have done, and I was just thinking, I feel like I haven't done anything. And she was like, it literally sounds like you've ticked off the list, hun. But it just doesn't feel like it. Like, I feel like I've got 0 followers. I feel like I've got no career. But I'm just like, yeah. So
Well-
I'm just thinking it must be the environment, because I honestly feel like I'm still very much
Well,
fresh
we're
on
here
everything.
to tell you from our perspective, you're killing it
Oh,
and
thank
doing
you.
amazing.
Before we go, tell our listeners why the sales assistant is not their friend then. We'd love to hear. This was from the position of celebrities
Yeah.
making friends with the sales advisor in a luxury store, I assume.
Yes, celebrities, people that are. I think the problem is the power imbalance. So sometimes the power imbalance can be fame, sometimes it could be money, privilege, and when there is a power imbalance, it's very difficult to have a fair friendship. And I witnessed it firsthand. You might make friends with a sales assistant, and at first, maybe they might really like you and they get on with you. But then if you actually begin to treat them as a friend, unfortunately, like, they can't treat you as a friend. And I've sometimes seen it where a customer's made friends with a sales associate and they've been friends for like a while. And then like now the customer's asking the sales associate, like, can you come for dinner? We should go for coffee sometime. And then this
Really, they just need a therapist. Just
yes,
pay a
this is what it
therapist.
is. Yeah, and the sales associate can't say no. That's their client. That gives them a good
Yeah.
commission. So now they have to ask their manager. The manager probably like does actually sometimes say yes. Well, I know like my manager at the time did. Not for me. This is just something that I saw. And like now the sales associate is having to go an hour before, like maybe they'll finish at 5. They now leave at 4 to have coffee with this person. This person can take their coffee up to like what, 6 p.m.
Yeah, unpaid.
Unpaid, exactly. And then also like it's the whole thing of like trauma dumping. So many clients will come into store so lonely.
Yeah. We've had this,
Yeah,
haven't we? You know, my
yeah,
marriage
yeah.
isn't, my
Crumbling.
marriage is over.
At first it's cute, but after
After a few stories, you're like, no, I'm bored now.
Call
But
your therapist.
Yeah, but you kind of do act as a therapist because the therapist can't be like, oh no, this is like too much.
But then also for the celebrity, if, the sales assistant's earning a huge amount of commission, then the sales advisor becomes a bit of a yes person. And then the celebrity is kind of surrounded by even more sycophants, of everyone, these enabling voices that like, you're amazing, you look incredible. When really, they're picking outfits and they look...
We won't
it's
be going
true.
to you for that then.
The majority of people that the celebrity will hang out with, or sometimes not even celebrities, public figures, will be people that they're working with, will be people that they're paying.
Yeah.
And obviously if you're paying someone, they obviously are going to be like pleasant or even more pleasant.
telling you what you need to hear.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not seeing your friends as much, and you can just get into your head and think that's normal, because it's so hard from a different perspective if you are the customer to see how it might look from like the sales associate's perspective or outsider. You genuinely will feel like that person's your friend. I know I have. Like, I've gone into stores and felt like, oh my gosh, this sales associate is my friend.
Great selling skills.
Yeah. I mean, it's great, but then like you need to remember, like at the end of the day, they're really not, and there's like a line. There is literally a line, and you need to be careful not to cross it.